This is Module 11, PCOM Network Connection. All of the panels in the PFC series line have a built-in Ethernet port labeled PCOM. Using an Ethernet cable, that port can be connected to a building's existing network. That connection can be made to a switch or a building's router. Once that connection is made, the panel has built-in DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. What this means is that the panel will try and get an automatic IP address from the host computer on the network. If there is no DHCP server or host computer, you will have to contact the network administrator for that building's network to obtain a static IP and other network information from them. If the network does have a host computer, when the panel is connected to the network, it will obtain an IP address automatically, and it's going to show you that IP address for about 10 seconds. Even though the panel may obtain an IP address, that does not mean that the panel now has access to the internet or the building's network. Oftentimes, networks are secure, which means that access is only granted to objects connected to the network by the network administrator. Check with the network administrator to make sure that the panel will have access to the internet and the building's network with the IP address that it was given. There are several things you can do once the panel has connection to a network. The first is you can upload and download the programming software over the building's network. In order to upload or download, you either need to know the NetBIOS or host name of the panel or the IP address. The host name can be found on a heatsink inside the cabinet as shown here. You can also find the host name and the IP address through the keypad. Go to the main menu, select number 5, System Tools. In the System Tools menu, select number 3, Ethernet Tools. And in Ethernet Tools, select number 1, Ethernet Status. And here you can see the host name on the first line and the IP address on the fourth line. If you're using a 6030 or a 6075, you need to scroll to the right to see this information. The IP address will be a local area network address. For example, 10.15 is a local area IP address, or it might be 192.168 as the two starting sets of numbers. Once we have this information, we can now upload and download the programming software over this local area network. When uploading or downloading, you will need to know the username and password. The default with the programming software is Potter. When downloading the programming software, you will need to enable the panel at the Fire Alarm Control Panel keypad. To enable the Fire Alarm Control Panel to download to it, go to the main menu, select option 7, Data Transfer. In Data Transfer, select option 1, Remote Access. The panel is now enabled for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, it will reset. Once the panel has been downloaded, it will restart and that window of remote access will be closed. You do not need to enable the panel to upload information. For example, the sensitivity report, a history report, and the configuration can all be uploaded over the network without having to enable the panel. For more information on the programming software, please refer to the recorded modules on the programming software. In addition to being able to upload and download over the network, the PCOM connection is also a UL-listed IP communicator to a central station. Using an IP communicator as your communication method to central station can have several benefits. When using an IP communicator, only one means of communication is required, which means that there is no backup means of communication required. You don't need to have 2 phone lines or 1 phone line backing up IP, only an IP communicator is required. It keeps the signal digital. A fire alarm control panel these days are digital. It keeps that signal digital rather than translating it into an analog signal to send it over a dialer. When communicating IP, we're using the cloud, which provides multiple paths for the information to move. There is no single point of failure once the information reaches the cloud. There's also built-in error detection and correction, which means the receiver and the fire alarm control panel make sure that the message received by the receiver is correct. The speed of an IP communicator is also very fast. The signal is received at central station almost instantly. Any loss of communication between the fire alarm control panel and the central station is known within 90 seconds. The communication path is constantly supervised. Some things to consider when working with an IP communicator. The connection does go through the customer's router. The router is now part of the critical path between the fire alarm control panel and the supervising station. Therefore, it needs to be provided with some amount of standby power. Also consider the costs. In our case, the IP communicator is built into the fire alarm control panel, and the building probably has a network ready to send information to a central station. So you don't have to worry about costs of an additional communicator or the cost of 2 phone lines. For more information on the PCOM as an IP communicator, including code requirements and programming, please refer to the recorded module Fire Alarm Control Panel Communication Methods and the recorded module on Programming IP Reporting. And finally, the PFC 6000 series all come out of the box ready to send and receive emails. With a network connection, not only can you receive information from the panel, but you can request information from the panel by sending it an email. Each panel comes with an email address. The email address is their host name or netbios at potterlink.com. So for example, the address of my training panel is PFC 6075-0001-005 at potterlink.com. And remember, the netbios can be found on a sticker on the heatsink as seen here or through the fire alarm control panel keypad. Your first option when programming the panel is email reporting. This programming option allows you to enter up to 20 email addresses and decide what information each address will receive. You can individually configure each email address to receive status emails, history and sensitivity reports on one schedule, and test emails. You can also configure whether those email addresses will be allowed to request information on demand from the fire alarm control panel. If that option is selected per email address, that particular email address account can send an email to this fire alarm control panel requesting a history report, a sensitivity report, and even the software configuration file. Starting with status emails are emails that are sent when there is an alarm, a supervisory, or a trouble condition. Each email address can be programmed such that it receives all 3 of those, or just alarms, or just supervisories, or just troubles. They are sent from the fire alarm control panel when the condition occurs. The emails may contain more than one event. These emails are not intended to alert the authorities. For example, looking at this email is a trouble email that was sent to me when there was a dirty detector. This information that I have highlighted here is customizable in the programming software. In email reporting, if history and sensitivity reports are selected, they will come on the schedule as programmed in this section of the software. Those reports come in 2 files attached to the email, text files and Excel files. Those files are relatively small in size, so your network administrator doesn't need to worry about large attachments being emailed from the fire panel. When I open up the history report, you'll notice that this is all of the history contained inside of the fire alarm control panel. The fire alarm control panel stores 1,000 events. If this hasn't been cleared, it will have potentially 1,000 events listed in it. Again, this information at the top can be customized. The sensitivity report, when I open that, is going to show you all your detectors, heat detectors and smoke detectors, and their current status as well as their alarm conditions. Again, this information can be customized at the top. Test emails are like the 24-hour test signal to Central Station. It's an email that will come to you at the same time that that call goes to Central Station, indicating whether the system is normal or off normal. And again, each email address in this part of the software can be customized to receive status emails, reports, test emails. It's up to the user which emails they get. If Enable Email Request is checked for an email address, they can send an email to the fire alarm control panel, and that fire alarm control panel will respond to them. For example, if I'm going to send an email to my fire alarm control panel, I open up a new email, I type in the address of my fire alarm control panel. Now you can see this address. If you were to send an email to this address, it would not respond to you because you're not a valid email address in the program. In the subject line, if I'd like to receive the history, I type in the word history. If I would like to receive a sensitivity report, a current sensitivity report, I type in the word status. And if I'd like to upload the panel by having it send me its configuration file, I type in the word configuration. Now I can just put one of those in there, or I can select all 3. It's entirely up to you. It doesn't matter what's in the body of the email, and I hit send. This can take up to 5 minutes. The Fire panel is programmed to look at the email server every 5 minutes to determine if there is a request for information and then respond to it. As you can see, the Fire panel has sent me those emails. Here's the history. This is the current history that is inside my Fire panel currently. Now I am looking at these on my computer, but these are also coming into my smartphone, and I can open up these documents on my smartphone as well. Again, here's a current sensitivity report, so I can open this up, and this sensitivity was done when it sent the email to me. This was the current sensitivity of my devices. And then I also had it send me the configuration file. This is the actual program that is inside the fire alarm control panel. So now I know I have the latest and greatest because the Fire panel sent this to me. I can open it up and make changes to it and know I'm working on the most current version of the fire alarm program. Your second option in the programming software is email reminders. As I mentioned previously, in email reporting, you are limited to one schedule. If, however, you would like to schedule other emails, in email reminders you can schedule up to 8 different scheduled emails. Those emails can go out yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, or daily. They can include a custom message with each email. You can attach history reports and sensitivity reports. That's optional. These emails can be sent up to 20 different email addresses, and the software will store up to 40 total email addresses. For more information on programming email reporting and email reminders, please refer to the recorded modules on the programming software that relate to these topics. So the PCOM network connection can be used for uploading and downloading over the local area network. It is UL listed for IP communication to central station that is built into the board, and it has built-in email capabilities. Again, built into the board, no extra charge for the email capabilities. For more information on any of these features, as well as programming information, please refer to the other recorded modules or the installation manual. For additional training videos, please check out our website, www.pottersignal.com.